Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and today I want to review, well, basically two products that are in the garden irrigation theme. And this is something that I purchased myself because I want to set up a very simple irrigation system in our family holiday home where we have a couple of trees and some small bushes, and I just want to help them to grow because we only stay there very irregularly, and the summers tend to be, very dry nowadays. So I don't want to irrigate the lawns. I just want to set up some simple drip irrigation to certain, plants in the garden. So I thought what I'm going to buy is I'm going to buy a single irrigation valve. So this is a battery-powered unit which runs on, runs on battery, and it works on Zigbee. So it has I also purchased the Zigbee gateway because I have a Zigbee gateway here, but there is none in the holiday home. So this is just a generic Zigbee gateway. It looks like it's Zigbee 3.0 only, because there is a Bluetooth version as well. And I also purchased this Zigbee soil sensor. So this measures soil, it says humidity, but it's soil conductivity or moisture level, and it also measures temperature as well. And I'm guessing one of the probe is temperature and the other two is used for humidity, although I can't really tell, but this looks like probably like a temperature probe. So it measures the temperature, not the air, but the one of the soil. And so today I'm going to review this, and I think they are quite, fairly good unit. They work in the Tuya system, and they also work with Zigbee to MQTT, which you're going to see later on. And the reason I purchased this unit, which I'm also going to mention a little bit later, that it has a fairly interesting screen, because it's not only like a simple on-off switch, but what it does is besides just a simple valve, it also measures the capacity of the water that you actually use. So you can set up an irrigation based on like how many times you want, how long you want to water your garden, but you can also set up based on the amount of water that you want to use. And it also keeps the track of how much water you use, so you can see it's here. And it seems to be fairly, good as well, or fairly reliable, because I did a test. I filled up a bucket with water, and I measured 15 liters using soda bottles. So I had a 1.5 liter soda bottle. I filled it up 10 times, so that was my 15-liter mark. And I set up an irrigation, so I set it up based on capacity. I set 15 liters and I clicked on start, and then it started, opened the valve, and it closed the valve automatically, and it was exactly at the 15-liter mark. So even the capacity seems to be fairly accurate, and I'm not really sure if this is something that you would use. Maybe it's only good to just have an overview of how much water you are using when you are irrigating your garden. But it also has some timers, and the only sort of let down, I thought, is the integration, because how this valve works with the soil sensor. So the soil sensor doesn't really do anything. It gives you humidity and temperature, the humidity being the the soil humidity or the soil moisture, and the soil temperature. So you can set up scenes based on, for example, if the water is low, then you should stop if the soil moisture is high, you shouldn't stop the irrigation. But it doesn't work the way I would prefer to work, because you can set up irrigation schedules here, but you cannot set up the sensor to stop these schedules. The only thing I managed to set up with these two units is that normally on this screen you would set up that how long you want the duration to the irrigation to last in minutes. And I can change this duration using the sensor. So let's say if the if the soil is wet, then I set this duration to a short amount, a short period, and if the soil is dry, then I can set it up to a longer period. And I use a scene to start. So instead of using this timer screen, I use a scene to start the irrigation, and then it looks like that the irrigation always picks up this duration, which then again I can influence using other scenes. So I don't think it's the perfect solution, but I think it's good enough. And also you probably noticed in this timer screen, then you can also delay your irrigation schedule based on if it detects rain, but it detects rain based on internet weather forecast, and then you can decide whether that's reliable for you or not. So even if you only purchase the valve, you can use this option here to delay your schedules by 1, 2, or 3 days based on the internet weather forecast, which again might not be the most accurate, but again you have this option as well. So I'm going to talk about all these in a little bit more details and take you through some of these examples later in this video, but that would be all the functionality of these these three devices in a nutshell. And just before I got into the actual review, I just wanted to show the type of products that I was seeing on AliExpress, because I was just searching for irrigation valve in the beginning, and I mean, of course, there is a lot of these, manual ones that you can just, it has a built-in timer and you can program them, which is fine. But since I'm not going to be, on the holiday property most of the time, I think it's better if I can just monitor it remotely. At least I have some sort of overview of what it's doing. And also I've noticed that there is a lot of stuff which, like this one, which is actually Bluetooth controlled, and they usually come with a Bluetooth like a gateway, but then I wasn't really sure if that would be able to reach, or whether the placement of the sort of the Bluetooth gateway is very critical. And also I looked at these ones, which I think these are the rebranded Blitzwolf ones, because I remember Blitzwolf was selling this and you had to buy this plug, because this was an RF gateway for the valve and also for the rain sensor, because they used 433 megahertz RF. And this was the only this was the only product that was using RF, and all the others either used Bluetooth or Zigbee. So this is why I thought, maybe this is not the best. Maybe it's not a coincidence there is no other product which uses RF for this communication. So this is why I ended up deciding to pick Zigbee, and I was looking at a lot of different ones. And the reason what I said is I decided for on this particular model, because when I looked at the listing, and especially the I think at some point there is one where it shows about the app. Yeah, here. So I could see that it has something to do with the capacity. So so it does measure actually the amount of water that goes through. So that was one, big thing which made me decide to pick this one. Even though it looks like a nice feature, but I'm not really sure how much I would end up using that. I mean, normally you set your irrigation and you set a time, and then that's it. So maybe it's interesting in the beginning just to understand how much water you are using, but I think in the long run it's really not going to make a difference. So, that's why I decided to buy this one. By the way, let me show you the sort of the prices. So you get this base model with the Zigbee gateway. I think this is what I purchased, or you can buy more, maybe it's a little bit cheaper. And then you have, and I purchased this soil meter separately. Again, you can buy multiple, and then it gets a little bit cheaper, I guess. Not exactly cheap, so it's not like, like just a couple of bucks. So I was like contemplating, whether I should spend this much money, because for the same amount of money, I think you can go one of these branded products as well, which probably does multiple zones as well. But for my particular need, I didn't need any extra zones. So that's why I decided to pick this one. Let me give you a quick review. I mean, it's really going to be quick because there is not an awful lot that you really, or I can really show about these products. Well, first of all, let me clear this one first because this is just a Zigbee gateway. I think this is probably just a generic Zigbee gateway. There's nothing special about that. Well, there's nothing special I can see. It's a really small box. It has a USB in for power, and there is a button to reset, and there's a couple of LEDs. I haven't even used it because I have my other Zigbee gateway at home, but yeah, I think it's just going to be some generic one. Probably it doesn't have a lot of features, but for this 2 unit it's going to be perfectly adequate. And it only comes with a USB lead. It doesn't come with a charger. So yeah, you make sure that you have a spare charger for that. And next, let me just finish with this soil sensor. So, you know, it's a fairly beefy construction. It uses 2 AA batteries. It's, you know, a fairly decent construction. As you can see, there are metal inserts for the screws, and you have 4 screws, and this body or this piece of plastic lifts off, and you install the 2 batteries. And there is nothing else. There is this button that you can, it shows here, you long press for 5 seconds and it goes into pairing. So yeah, and yeah, and also there is a very faint LED there, and these very satisfying probes, 3 probes. So that's the soil sensor. And last one is the actual irrigation valve. Again, there is a threaded connection on the top and the bottom as well. And up here, I'm not sure if I would be able to see that, there is a metal screen just to filter out some big particulates. And this part screws off. So I think this is 3/4 inch and this is a 1/2 inch adapter. So yeah, that's fine. And also on a separate bag, I got the quick connect type spigots here, and I think this is probably like a small roll of Teflon tape, a screwdriver to undo these screws, and it looks like I even got a spare screw, so that's nice. And these, so the ones that are yellow, they appear to be brass. So I think it's, again, this one looks like a decent construction as well. You can probably take this apart as well. You can see the screw holes here, but basically you need to undo these 4 screws and then you can install the batteries. So this takes 4 AA batteries, and all you have is a power button here. Again, you press and hold this one to get into pairing mode, and then you can press, just single press, to open the valve and shut if you want to operate it manually. And that was the whole listing. Let's review the Tuya Smart app now. So I'm using the Tuya Smart app, and I've added, so well, I have, for the Zigbee gateway, I have a Blitzwolf IS1 for a couple of years, and I was able to add these devices to this gateway without any issues. So I just followed the normal process. You click on that sub device, you say that the LEDs are blinking, and you press either this button or the other button for 5 seconds, and they go to pairing mode, and you just wait for a couple of seconds and they get identified. So you can see the 2 devices up here. So one is called the soil sensor. Let me just do this because that's going to be fairly easy. So it monitors, well, it sends temperature and humidity. I don't know why it is like that. So this humidity is actually the soil humidity, or the water content. So if I put this in a water, then it shows 100%. And I'm not really sure, maybe in the Zigbee documentation there is nothing which is like a soil moisture level, so they just use the characteristics for the humidity, and also you have temperature. And this is probably, well, I don't think, oh, let me just check, because you have history as well. So this is how the temperature looked like. Oh, sorry, no, that was the humidity. So this is where it was in the garden. So we had a little bit of rain yesterday, so the soil was pretty moist, and then I removed it, so it has gone down to 0%, and I put it into, I think I play around with it, put it into water and that sort of stuff. So it was jumping up and down again, and if you look at the temperature, it was, yeah, it has gone up to 20. Well, again, this was in the ground yesterday and today, so it was measuring the lower temperature. So this was like it's mostly like air temperature, so I don't think it's measuring the temperature here, but maybe actually one of these probes is temperature and the other two is the soil moisture content. So actually this could be temperature, but I'm not really sure, and it's not that clear in the documentation. But you have these details, but I think what you end up using as an information is mostly this one. And then you go into the irrigation valve, and this screen is a lot more complicated. So you have, well, so you have two different modes. So you have a mode where you can start an irrigation based on time. So you set that, okay, I want to open the valve for 20 seconds. I want a single irrigation, or I want multiple cycles with a time in between, or you want to do a capacity. And obviously you set the number of liters here, and again you can do single irrigation or you do multiple. And all you do is you just click on, let's say this one. So you click here, and then you can hear the click. So the water is now on, and of course you can stop it anytime, but it's now counting down to, as you can see here, it's counting down the time, and it also measures the volume. Well, obviously nothing is connected, so it doesn't measure any volume or any flow, but you have seen the previous video how it was working. And again, the only thing to note is this on-off button is not a single button which toggles, but it actually, you have to press on the lower side to be on, and sort of like the higher side to be off on a fairly small button. So that's like, if you try to press it right in the middle, then sometimes it just doesn't do anything. So it's a little bit finicky to use, but you get used to it fairly quickly. And exactly the same for the capacity. And you also have the battery percentage here. You have a weather, which is going to be, it makes sense in a few minutes. And you can see the time and the volume of the sort of last or the current irrigation, which is counting up here. You have a button here for the record, which is just a history. So you can see me, playing around with this. You see these two 15-liter tests. This is what I made a video of. And I was doing like smaller ones here. So you can just review how much you watered, and you have, like a monthly duration and a monthly water volume. Well, actually, I'm not sure if it's monthly because it says water volume. Yeah, it must be the monthly, because then your history goes by month. And I'm not really sure how much you can go back, because again, it's not mentioned in the documentation. So I'm guessing maybe a year or something like that. And on the other side, you have timers, and this is how you can set the irrigation. So you can create a timer to say, again, you set either the duration or the capacity. So let's say let me just go back to the example that I've done. So edit. Yeah, so let's say I want to start an irrigation at 8:30. I want to run it in 20 minutes, for 20 minutes, and I want to do it on every single day of the week. But you can also do capacity. So you want to irrigate, 200 liters, and you can do that way as well. And of course you can create new ones. So like you can do one in the morning, one in the evening. You can enable and disable them. And you also have this option here on the top which says delay if on rainy or snowy days. And yeah, so this is how this is where the weather forecast is going to come into picture, because obviously Tuya Smart knows your location, because when you set your home, you specify your location, so it can pull the weather data for that location. So now it says, partly cloudy, 16 degrees. Yeah, I don't know how good this is going to be, because obviously that relies on weather forecast. But I guess if the weather forecast says that it's raining today, then it's going to disable your timers for either 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. So by using this functionality, well, I haven't really tested it because I just got this unit like a week ago, but using this functionality, I think it's, I mean, at least you can take the rainfall into account even if you don't have a soil sensor. And that's pretty much it. You can just set the device and share and notifications. There's nothing on the settings side. So that's what you get for the irrigation valve, and this is what you get for the soil sensor. So it's all good. It looks and what I usually do is like check what is available in the scenes. And well, actually you can see that I've created a couple of scenes already, but let me show you what are the different triggers and actions that both of these devices support. So the first one, let's look at the soil sensor. So obviously you can create a trigger based on the humidity or the temperature. So if the humidity drops below or goes above a certain percentage, which actually I think probably the only, well, not the only, but it is the main feature that you would use. You can also do temperature, but I'm not really sure about that. I mean, of course you could use the temperature, and let's say if it's less than 10 degrees, then just stop irrigating altogether. But the way I would use it is like I would turn it on in the summer, like enable the scenes, and then in the autumn I would just disable all the scenes and probably like take the unit inside as well, both the sensor and the valve. But that's really up to you. So these are the actions, or these are the triggers that you can set up for the valve. Let me just, oh, what did I do? Okay, so that was the sensor. And for the valve, you have two things. So you have a switch and a start, and it's a little bit misleading, like what's the difference between the two. But a start is when you start a new irrigation, which when you click on that start and stop button. And then I guess the switch is actually when the relay or the valve switch is on and off. So yeah, but I didn't see the point having these two, because when you start the irrigation, the switch turns on, and when you stop the irrigation, the switch turns off. So basically they are the same. And this last one, which is has the Chinese script, it actually says duration. So obviously, you wouldn't create an automation for the duration. So I think you wouldn't really use the valve to trigger anything. But then on the most important thing, what you can do on the task side, so the action side. And obviously there is nothing for the soil sensor, because this is just a soil sensor. It's not going to do anything. But the irrigation valve, you have exactly the same stuff. So you can switch the valve on and off. So you can use an action to turn the valve on and turn it off. A scene, which is fine, yeah. And then you can also do start, and that's basically starts an irrigation cycle. So again, you can just do it on and off. And I did a test, which you're going to see in a few minutes. And the way you would use this is you set the start to on, and then that starts an irrigation cycle. And then it would use the duration. Well, it seems that it uses the duration which is on the main screen to control how long it's going to irrigate. So you don't have to set the off with any scenes, because that's going to just time out based on the duration. But again, it's not really clear whether it uses the time duration, or whether it uses the capacity duration, or whether it depends on which screen you last used when you were on that screen. So it's really misleading, and of course nothing is documented. So it's I was doing some experiments, and I think I know how it works. And you also can set the duration, and that again is the duration that you see on the main screen. So let me just go out here. So this is the duration that you can control, and the and the start is like pressing the on button here, which is this on button. But again, it's not really clear whether when you click start it's going to look at the duration or whether it's going to look at the capacity. I think it looks like it's looking at the duration, maybe because I was on the duration screen here, not on the capacity screen, but hopefully it's consistent enough that it looks at the duration. So what I come up with as a way of controlling or setting up a scene is I have a scene, so when the soil humidity is less than 20%, I set the duration to 20 minutes. So let's assume that, you know, if the soil is dry, you want to irrigate for 20 minutes. And when the soil humidity reaches 90%, then it sets the irrigation. Actually, I can delete this one. This is useless. How do I delete? I'm not really sure. Anyway, this so you set the duration to 5 seconds, and this irrigation is useless. I just did it for testing, and there is no point. Well, it's not useful, but I cannot remove it. I don't think I can remove it. So probably only thing I can do is just create it again, and then just not to use this start off. So that is going to play around with the duration that you see here. So this duration, and I'm going to show you that actually that works. And then going back to the scenes, you set up a scene which is scheduled based on a time, and then you say that the start is on. And it looks like that it actually uses the duration here. So that starts a single irrigation based on the time. So if the soil is dry, it's going to irrigate for 20 seconds. If the soil is wet, then it's only going to irrigate for 5 seconds. So I cannot turn it off. I can just set a really low period of time. That seems to work. So this is my only way of using the soil temperature sensor and the valve in combination with each other in the Tuya system. And of course you can still set up the timers. If you don't have any soil sensors, you can set up the timer, and you can use this rain delay option here, which is based on the weather information. So that's also an option, but using the scenes and the sensor, I think this is probably the best way of integrating the two devices into working system. I'm sorry, but I have to make a voiceover here because I was creating all these smaller segments in different times, and I just had to reuse some of my older footage. So what I'm testing here now is what I just explained. So I have these 3 scenes set up. So first, in the first 2 scenes, the soil sensor is setting the duration to either 20 minutes or 5 seconds, depending on whether the soil is dry or wet. And then I have a third scene, which is just starting an irrigation at a specific time. And what I'm testing basically here is that only by, you know, sending an action to start equals on, so start the irrigation, the valve will automatically turn itself off after the specified duration. So I can control the duration using the soil sensor, and I use a separate scene to just, you know, start the irrigation based on the duration interval. So first I'm testing with a dry condition. Well, you can see that the sensor is sitting there in, you know, in open air, so it is not detecting any soil moisture. So that is going to run for 20 minutes in the beginning, and then I'm going to put the sensor into water and then test again, and then it only runs for 5 seconds. And that's the other thing I wanted to show you, that now you can see that there is a warning on the screen which says water shortage, which, you know, it's a good feature because, well, obviously nothing is connected here, so it notices that there is no volume coming through. But you can't set up a scene for that. You can't, you know, it doesn't give you notification or anything like, I mean, it gives you notification now, but if you are not checking your screen constantly, you wouldn't notice this. So it would have been nice if the sensor has another trigger which could be like water shortage, because then I can, you know, set something up on that one, like I need to start a pump, or I just need to send, a dedicated notification for that. So again, a little bit of half-baked solution here. I left the phone to do its thing, or well, this device to do its things, and this shows that it's been running for 10:22, but that was just the last time when it was still running. And if I go to the record, it shows that it was running for 20 minutes. So it looks like that when I start the action, it is taking that duration into account. But let me just do another test. So I have a glass of water here, and I'm going to put the probe into that water. Okay. And then what you would notice is, well, I don't really get any notification, but if I leave this screen and if I come back here, I guess we just have to wait a little bit. I don't know how frequently this device wakes up and then sends the update. I don't think it's going to be very frequent. But yeah, now you can see that the time has changed to 5 seconds because that's based on this scene. So if the humidity is more than 90%, then it changes the duration to 5 seconds. So if I go back and if I modify this one to, hopefully I'm still going to be in time. Then hopefully we will see that now it changes only for 5, or it's going to turn on, well, it's going to start, and it's going to start for 5 seconds. So we just have to wait for a little bit more until we have half past. Now it's on and it's off. Well, so I think this is working. So this is how you would integrate this is how you would use the soil sensor and the irrigation controller together in the Tuya Smart system. Okay guys, I quickly moved over to Zigbee to MQTT, so I repaired all my devices, so now they are connected to my Zigbee to MQTT network, and the good thing is that both of them are supported. Some of them, they definitely look funny, but I think they are supported. So you can see the two new devices here. So the first even has a pretty image of the actual soil sensor. And if I go into the details, yeah, you can see that's how it looks like. And really what I really care about is the exposes. And well, we have all the stuff that we actually need. So we have the temperature, we have the humidity, and we have a battery percentage. It's showing 90%. Well, these batteries are fresh and I installed them a couple of days ago. So I don't think that is the indication that it has lost 5%, well, it's the 10% of battery life in just a few days, because that battery is supposed to, work for about a year. But definitely because I was playing around with it, there was a lot of, obviously he was, dunking it in water and then removing it and then repairing, definitely used the battery. But yeah, it has all the information that we need. We have like another indication of the battery state, so we can use even that. So to show medium, low, and high if you want to set up a notification when the battery is running low. And we also have a link quality. So that's looking good. Actually, let's look at how it looks like in the MQTT as well. So it sends battery, state, humidity, link quality, and temperature. Perfect. That's all we needed. And now let's go back to the devices and the soil sensor. Yeah, so it's a water irrigation valve. So that's definitely a good description. And it definitely has battery percentage. Well, it doesn't have a picture, but that's not a problem. So we have a battery, we have a state, which is on and off, but I don't think that's the state of the relay, because I think it should be off. No, I pressed the button, so it's on. Oh yeah, and now it's off. Okay, yeah. It makes a louder click when it opens the tap, and then a fainter quick click when it closes. So now it has, so that's the state on off is the state of the valve. And then you have the mode, which is whether it's duration or capacity. And then you have in irrigation target. So this is the value, which is either seconds or liters. And then, yeah, that's the switch. And yeah, so you have the irrigation times and the intervals. So this is the same stuff that we have seen on the Tuya screen. And the irrigation start time, end time. Oh, okay, so this is the irrigation start time, end time that we have seen on the UI, but that's not really how Tuya controls it. But that's good. And then last irrigation duration, so it also logs everything here, and the water consumed and the rain quality. Well, yeah, this water consumed, I'm guessing it's probably like a continuous indicator, so it would just keep counting up, and that's the last irrigation. But yeah, I think this is great because you know, even if you're using your own Zigbee network, this is pretty much all the information that you need. And if you look at in the Zigbee, sorry, in the MQTT, yeah, we have the same, the same thing. So the state is off on, the mode is duration, or I think it was capacity, the other one. And yeah, you have the end time and the start time, the battery percentage, and everything. So you have all the information which was, well, all the information and the feature which was available in the Tuya app, you have in the Zigbee to MQTT as well. So I think it makes it ideal to use this device in your DIY automation, or for example in Home Assistant. It seems to be working just fine in Zigbee to MQTT. Okay, I think that will be all for today about these 3 units, well, mostly these 2. If you are interested in any of these, then I'm going to leave a listing in the video description. Well, actually it's one listing, and then based on the options you pick, you can buy either the valve alone, or with the Zigbee gateway, and you can also purchase the soil sensors differently. And of course you can pick only one, or multiple of these 2 units. But I think that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you next video.